Hello, I'm Brent Rod with Visit Tucson. Welcome to Visit Tucson's first ever virtual annual meeting. While we would prefer to be together in person, COVID-19 impacts simply won't allow that this year. First, we hope all of you, your families, and coworkers are staying healthy in the midst of the pandemic. Additionally, we realize many tourism and hospitality businesses are fighting to stay alive due to the financial impacts of COVID-19. The U.S. Travel Industry Association recently announced that 51% of all tourism and hospitality employees are jobless. With more than 25,000 Pima County jobs tied to travel, that equates to more than 12,000 jobless tourism and hospitality workers in our metro area. Meanwhile, many businesses are in the process of reopening, but Arizona is encountering community spread of COVID-19 since state stay-at-home orders expired. There are no easy answers. While we have seen slow, steady growth in Metro Tucson tourism revenue in May and June, we have a ways to go before CDC guidelines will allow full-scale mass gatherings such as meetings, events, and sports activities and concerts with full stadiums and arenas. Our leisure business is already beginning to bounce back, and we know the $2.5 billion in direct visitor spending in Pima County will return in time. Please know that we at Visit Tucson are marketing, selling, and promoting Tucson and Southern Arizona's summer travel experiences locally throughout Arizona and in Southern California. As flights resume, COVID-19 dissipates, and international borders reopen, we will expand our promotion to our top Western and Midwestern feeder cities and into Mexico and Canada. Please continue to stay in touch with us at Visit Tucson to let us know how we can help you in the weeks and months ahead. It's now my pleasure to introduce Nancy Kluge, President and CEO of Reid Park Zoo and Chair of Visit Tucson's Board of Directors. Nancy, welcome.
Good morning. I'm very pleased to be with you here this morning. This has been a year like no other, and it is times like these that leadership is needed more than any other time. We appreciate all that Brent Rod and the terrific staff at Visit Tucson have done in making the decisions that are needed for the long-term success of our community and tourism. I also want to thank the Board of Directors of Visit Tucson. I'm honored to be a part of a board of community leaders that think about what is needed for the long term, and I'm grateful to each of them for their leadership. I am pleased to announce that 3 new members will be joining Visit Tucson's Board of Directors effective July 1st. They were elected by Visit Tucson's members and are Steve Earnhardt, Market President, iHeartMedia; Hillary Luarte, owner, Diamond Transportation; Aten Suarez, General Manager, El Conquistador Tucson of Hilton Resort. On behalf of Visit Tucson's Board of Directors, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the board. Additionally, 4 board members were elected to their second 3-year terms beginning July 1st. They are Dan Kavanaugh, Consultant, Lloyd Construction; John Denker, Vice President, Marketing and Brand Management, University of Arizona; Glenn Grabsky, General Manager, Tucson Convention Center; Laura True, owner, White Stallion Ranch. Congratulations and thank you. I also want to thank 3 departing board members: Guy Alexander, Senior Vice President of Operations, Prism Hotels and Resorts; Steve Rosenberg, Biz Tucson; Russ Bond, General Manager, JW Marriott Tucson, Star Pass Resort and Spa. I'd also like to give a special thank you to Russ for serving as Visit Tucson's board chair last year, for being on the executive committee, and his service as immediate past chair this past year. And I'd also like to congratulate Russ on his retirement and wish him well. Thank you for your service and your contributions to Visit Tucson's many successes to all of you. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank our 3 local government partners for appointing representatives to serve on our board of directors. Elaine Beckerer, Chief of Staff for Tucson Mayor Regina Romero. Sharon Bronson, Pima County Board of Supervisors. Mayor Joe Winfield, Town of Oro Valley. My thanks to our entire board of directors for your time, commitment, and continued service to Visit Tucson.
Thank you, Nancy. We're now going to shift gears and talk about tourism recovery, which has been on our radar since the pandemic hit. What we're going to do here today is already begin to talk about the recovery process, which in some ways is already underway. And so, for that conversation, let me go ahead and introduce our panelists here. So we have Nancy Kluge. Nancy is Visit Tucson's board chair and president and CEO of Reid Park Zoo. Nancy, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. And John Denker. John is our vice chair of the board for Visit Tucson. And John is associate vice president of marketing and brand management for the University of Arizona. John, we appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Brent.
And joining our executive committee starting July 1st is again, the general manager of Westward Wyndham Grand Resort, Andrew Stegen. Andrew, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for the invitation.
And finally, last but certainly never least, is Felipe Garcia, our outstanding executive vice president. Good morning, Felipe.
Good morning.
And Felipe, let's start with you. So when we take a look at the first 7 months of this fiscal year, July through January, arguably maybe the best beginning 7 months that we've had, at least in the past couple of decades here in the Metro Tucson area. So outstanding results, travel, everything was going really well. Then all of a sudden we start to see just rumors of coronavirus. What's that going to mean? By, I'd say, the middle of February, we were starting to see a few of those impacts. And then obviously by the time we hit mid-March, travel had completely fallen off the map. We immediately put together a tourism recovery plan, and we're already starting to implement that. So can you talk just a little bit about the background on that plan and maybe where we're going with that plan over the next year?
For sure. So as many as you know, we have developed throughout time 3-year strategic plans. So we developed a 3-year process of what we're headed as an organization. As you mentioned, Brent, we were doing amazing and we were ready and eager to start our new 3-year park plan starting this year. And it was going to be based on our tourism master plan. So we have a plan for 10 years for growing visitation in Tucson. Well, we put that on hold and decided to work because of the circumstances in a 1-year recovery plan. There's parts that we'll pull out from the strategic plan, from that 10-year tourism master plan, but we concentrated in 3 areas. Number 1, we need to grow visitation to Metro Tucson. Number 2, we need to work with our local partners, city, county, the town of Oro Valley, to help our local businesses, hotels, and others go through this COVID-19 crisis. And number 3, us internally as an organization, we need to reshape our organization. We had to make some very tough choices of reducing personnel, looking at for investments. And when we talk about specifically visitation, and I think that's the most relevant for the community, we're looking into series of segments. We know that initially we're going to see some local travel. We're starting to see a lot of staycations. So right now, when we're done with this program, hopefully go online to visittucson.org and book your staycation here in Tucson. But we're also seeing people from Southern California, Phoenix, and eventually we know that people from Northern Mexico. So we're looking at a regional recovery, and then we'll face it to nationally and internationally.
Thank you. Appreciate the recap on that. Nancy, let's talk about attractions here for a minute. So, one of the things that we've seen, obviously, during the COVID-19 crisis has been the closure of several attractions, unfortunately. One of the ways that we've looked at maybe trying to bring that programming back to patrons and people in Tucson is really just kind of taking a look at virtual programming through just a page on Visit Tucson site, virtualtucson.org. Can you kind of talk a little bit about maybe just the value of the virtual programming and sort of what's happening with attractions right now in terms of the reopening?
Yeah, I think virtualtucson.org is an example of how attractions pivoted during this time to bring virtual offerings. It provides a way for potential visitors to just get a glimpse of the most current and exciting things that are going on in the area right now. It also, for people who are sitting at home and can't travel yet, it gives them just a glimpse of Tucson and Southern Arizona from a virtual tour of Pima Air and Space, a virtual aircraft tour. from beautiful mindful meditations from Canyon Ranch and Miraval, showcasing the beautiful nature we have here in Tucson and Southern Arizona. And then they can look on Reid Park Zoo's webcams and see the lemurs leaping, or Tohono Chul and botanical gardens, and have a beautiful way to get close to nature. So I think it really provides just a nice way to showcase little bits of Tucson and what's going on now.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that. So John, at the University of Arizona, again, when we take a look at tourism, especially in the fall, it seems like a lot of our biggest tourism weekends are really kind of tied to University of Arizona events. So it may be a little early, but any indication in terms of what we might see coming up in fall 2020 at the University of Arizona?
Yeah, great question, Brent. So right now we're planning to be back in the fall as of today. That kind of shifts here and there every day, but nonetheless, right now we're planning to be back on campus and teaching both in person and on the line. And we're thinking about how we cycle students into a classroom and out of a classroom. And, the on-campus experience, I think we can probably all relate, is such a huge portion of all of our college or higher education experiences. And we really feel that having students back in Tucson is really the most beneficial for them. It gives them the on-campus experience that they yearn for. We really view Tucson as a great asset. There are a lot of other places you can go to school in a major metro, but oftentimes we talk to alumni. They think about Tucson in this really great, city with a lot of things, but also kind of a huge college town. And so I think our partnership between Visit Tucson and the university has been really strong, especially in the past several years around, going together for different marketing events and for different marketing pieces that we're putting out into the market, whether it be in drive markets or whether it be in fly markets that are direct flights. It all makes sense. We start to think about how our students really live in overlap cities that are best for folks visiting Tucson. And so, kind of all that is to say that our two organizations are really well aligned and really well working well together, I guess I should say. And just to have students back on campus in the fall to experience the University of Arizona in person, have those Tucson experiences second to none. And we hope that happens, keeping our fingers crossed for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, John, for the partnership. We appreciate it very much.
You bet.
And Andrew, so taking a look at the hospitality industry, can you talk maybe just about some of the biggest challenges faced by your resort and perhaps the hospitality industry in general as we try to move forward from COVID-19?
Absolutely. I think, honestly, the biggest question that we all have to resolve is the trust to the public, to our guests, that we're providing a safe environment, whether it's a hotel or whether it's in the airports. And that's easier said than done. So that process has started. And if you divide the travel into two segments, leisure travel, we've already started the recovery, and that's mostly a drive market. And so here in Tucson, the resorts are showing some rebound on that. The tougher segment would be group travel. And that is at this point is non-existent, regardless, even though we have, it's a slow period for us in the summer. It's fourth quarter is going to be tough for all of us. And so the trust isn't yet there. The group travel is a little bit more complicated. It's a little bit more of a puzzle. How do you solve the social distancing issues with large groups? And even if you can do that, then we need airlines to start flying again regularly. And then how are they handling the social distancing? And then if you have that, then a lot of these groups have a lot of international travelers, and not every country, not every airline has lifted the restrictions for that. So the group aspect is a little bit more of a challenge, and I think that will be a lot longer pathway to recovery.
I agree with that completely. I can't think of a time where the value of meetings, has been, I guess, more pronounced than now. We need to be able to bring those back in order to see full recovery. And until we get there on the meetings front, I don't think we're going to see that for quite some time. So we'll keep building that. I know first quarter of 2021 still looks strong. We'll hope that certainly the virus begins to subside by that point, and that we can move forward with an outstanding peak season. And I appreciate all that you're doing for us at Visit Tucson, and obviously running a great resort as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Felipe, so I want to talk about Mexico a little bit. You and I went down to Hermosillo. We had the grand opening of a new visitor center in Hermosillo just a couple of months ago. And now here we are, basically with it closed, with the border partially closed at this point. What are we looking at here in terms of the reopening of the border with Mexico to leisure travel? And how much pent-up demand do you think that there is to visit Tucson?
So we know that the Department of Homeland Security has extended the partial closure of the border till the month of July. They have not set a specific date because they want to be able to move things around. In the meantime, we're in conversations locally with U.S. Customs and Border Protection to make sure that once they're ready to reopen, again, it's a partial closure. It doesn't mean that it's shut down, that we are able, again, to move people fast and agile. I can tell you every day we have a conversation, a call with our staff in Hermosillo, as you mentioned. We have a great visitor center, brand new, and unfortunately right now it's we have staff at their homes working from there. But the numbers of calls and emails of people asking, when's the border open? We need to go, we're ready to go. So we know we have that demand. People are eager. Now we know that visitation from Mexico, every year we get about 25 million visits from Mexico in the state of Arizona. So it's a great market for us, not only for hotels, but for our stores and restaurants. $1 billion with the bees spent every year here in Tucson. And that's sales tax money. So again, everyone in our community, we're going to be impacted. We're working with the state of Sonora, with our neighbors south of the border, developing strategies and goals. We've been part on a strategic planning with our partners in Sonora, again, looking at opportunities on that cross-border trade. I know there's some people from Mexico watching right now, so los esperamos aquí muy pronto. Nos vamos a dar un abrazo aquí en persona, allá en Sonora, aquí en el estado de Arizona, en Tucson, muy pronto. So again, we just want to welcome you, and we're eager and ready to welcome our friends from Mexico and from Canada as well. I know, Andrew, that we're going to be ready to, once we have that partial border restrictions lifted, Canadian market, Mexico market, very important to us.
Thanks for mentioning Canada as well. You saved me a phone call from Glenn Williamson. So
absolutely.
That's great. So to wrap up, I'd like to just kind of finish up with a question for each of you. And Nancy, we'll start with you, and then John, Andrew, and we'll finish up with you, Felipe. But just taking a look right now, how long do you think it will take Metro Tucson to get back to pre-COVID-19 levels of travel? And then looking at this pandemic, what's one thing that's happened during this pandemic that you think will be a sort of a permanent part of how we move forward? Nancy, let's start with you.
Wow, what a question. And it's, I don't know if my crystal ball is any better than anyone else's, but I would say it's probably going to be a year before we get to that level. As far as what we're going to keep, I would say the virtual offerings, especially from the attraction side, whether it's a standalone or in conjunction with live events, I think they'll continue and they'll be a good addition.
Thank you. John, how about you?
Yeah, it feels like it's either going to come down to consumer confidence as we kind of work ourselves through these waves of infection. It just feels like it's going to be, it's going to be hit and miss for the next year or so. But, if there is a vaccine in early 2021, it feels like the vaccine plus 3 months. I think that might be a way to go about it as well. And I do agree with Nancy that the virtual pieces they seem like they're going to stick. It will be very interesting, the work from home movement, how many folks after 8 to maybe 10 months or a little bit less or some more, has this become a habit? Have top executives seen that, people that work from home can, keep their productivity going? A lot of folks can't do that, but nonetheless, the work from home movement for those that essentially are in offices most of the day will be very interesting to see how that changes as time goes along, for sure.
Thank you. Andrew, how about you? I'm
usually an optimistic person, Brent, but I think this is going to be probably 18 months or so. And that's unfortunate. As I mentioned earlier, we can do everything that we can and drive market, but in order to get the business and the group levels back up, we need help in terms of airfare, airlift into Tucson, even into Phoenix for that matter. So, and the timing of that, to John's point, if there's a vaccine in the first quarter, then plus 3 months, then we're back in summer already here. So, so I think it'll be 18 months until we really look at levels that we saw near the end of 2019. And so I see two things that have changed, obviously, in addition to what the other panelists said. What does it look now? What does it look like now to hold a group? How do you social distance? How are meals done? How are weddings done? I think that's going to be with us for the next few years, and I don't think that's been 100% figured out yet. But I will finish on a small positive note is that I think a lot of hotels, restaurants who never thought about doing grab and go and takeout before, obviously were forced to do that with the shutdown. And I think a lot of us have discovered a new revenue opportunity. And I think that will stick around for a while.
Good point. Thank you. Felipe, let's wrap up with you.
So if this is the price of right, I'll do 18 months and 1 day. So I can beat Andrew maybe if he's right. Yeah, I think it's going to be consumer confidence when people are ready to travel. But what I've learned, I think, through this process, I'm enjoying Zoom. I think that it's on this technology that I can access people really easily. I had talked about to a lot of you that, how easy it's for me to load my computer last week and have a conversation with the president of the Madrid tourism board, someone in Barcelona, Lyon, looking at what they're doing, and again, without having to travel. So that's, I think, the good thing about technology, but still, I think we need to travel. Still, there's this feeling, and as you know, personally, I started a food blog a few days ago, and I use a concept that the Scandinavian use that is called hygge, that is that sense and state of mind that when you're in that perfect moment in front of a plate, traveling, whatever, we need that as individuals. And I've noticed, again, technology's been great. I've been able to be very productive using technology, but still, to me, walking the Catalinas, be outside, connecting with nature, we need to go out. So I don't think that technology is great. It will not change that human need and satisfaction from traveling, from discovering, from engaging. So I think we'll get out there. Andrew, I agree with you. I don't know group-wise how we're going to, but we'll figure it out. And I think we're going to come with something very strong and something unique. And I agree with Forbes magazine, Tucson is going to be one of the best and fastest communities to recover.
Excellent. Thank you. And that wraps up our conversation. I want to thank our panelists. Our board leadership is outstanding. Very fortunate to have Nancy and John and Andrew on the executive committee of our board and leading our efforts. Felipe, thank you as always for your insights and everything that you do for Visit Tucson. And now we are joined by elected officials from the City of Tucson, Pima County, and the Town of Oro Valley to discuss regional tourism issues. Felipe Garcia will start us off with a conversation with Tucson Mayor Regina Romero.
Thank you, Mayor Regina Romero, for joining us in Visit Tucson's annual meeting. This year, we're going to do it virtually, of course, so we can take care of each other and follow your guidelines and on social distancing. I'm joining you from our office. We're coming here following protocols, but I decided to use as a background a small business here in Tucson, Exo Coffee. So again, we're trying to encourage our small businesses to keep operating in a safe manner. And again, that's what I chose as my virtual background. So again, thank you, Mayor Romero, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Felipe, and thanks to all of the board members of Visit Tucson that are really an important piece of the economic puzzle here in Tucson and Pima County and in the region. And I'm happy to be with you today.
Well, really appreciate it. And again, thank you to you, the staff, the team, the council members. We love the partnership with the City of Tucson, and we're excited about that. We know we're going through some very tough times, but with a very good vision, we're going to come out of this stronger. So we're really happy to look into the future. So I'm going to jump a little bit into the area of economic development, because you've done a great work in looking and having the vision of how do we support our businesses, either large, but paying a lot of attention to those small businesses. And a lot of them are going to be Spanish-speaking, Hispanic market here locally. And you've done some very good things with the Office of Economic Development for the City of Tucson. So what do you think is now what we're looking forward to do?
Well, I have put together an economic development advisory council made up of diverse individuals here in Tucson, and small businesses and small locally restaurants are part of my council. And so it is really important. As you said, we're so proud of our small locally owned businesses. If you look at our downtown and the renaissance that it has been going through, we are completely packed with the locally owned restaurants in our downtown and 4th Avenue throughout the city of Tucson. And so the work that we have to do, right, the city of Tucson, what we need to do is make sure that we not only help support these small locally owned businesses open up, but that we help them thrive and grow. And so continuing the work that I did on the council to create an economic initiatives office, I've pushed to create small business navigators, and in this particular time, the small business navigators have been able to help the small businesses answer questions and connect them to the needs that they have. One of the projects that I put in motion is our We Are One, Somos Uno Resiliency Fund. And we have put, Mayor and Council have put $2 million of our CARES funds from the federal government to do grants for our small locally owned businesses. And so that particular program is going to be important to help our small businesses navigate the crisis that we're living in. We also put $1 million into a 0% revolving loan fund for small businesses to tap into as well. And then, of course, it's the future, right? Right now, we're dealing with crisis. We're dealing with fear, with concern. But how do we, through the mayor's Economic Development Advisory Council, how do we put policy on the table so that we can continue helping our economy, our small locally owned businesses and others be able to stay here in Tucson and grow in Tucson so that we can tap into the amazing talent that we have coming out of the University of Arizona. Visit Tucson and the work that we're doing with our small locally owned businesses, our small local restaurants that give Tucson such a distinctive flavor. We need to be able to continue putting policy in place and in motion to help navigate these difficult waters that we have in front of us.
And Mayor, I know you're very busy, and again, we want to really thank your time, not only today, but for many years of supporting the tourism industry, being an advocate for tourism as an economic development tool. But last thing I want to ask you about, I know there's people from Mexico watching this. You have joined us in some trips in Mexico on economic development, on protocol, Sinaloa, Sonora. Un mensaje en español, like message in Spanish to our friends from Mexico that are watching right now.
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to follow up on that relationship that we here in Tucson and in Arizona has with Mexico. It's an important relationship. It's something that I've known for many, many years. I grew up on the border of San Luis Rio Colorado and Yuma, Arizona. Farm working community. I'm pretty sure that many of our restaurant owners bring vegetables and lettuce from Yuma to Tucson. And so the relationship that we have with Mexico is absolutely important. I have many, many plans, and I think you and I have talked about the plans that we have to continue the partnership and a relationship that we have with not just government in Mexico, but also business owners in Mexico. Así es de que toda la gente que está viendo de México, de una persona que tiene familia y viene de sus padres, vienen de México, de aquí de Sonora. Les quiero dar las gracias a todos los que están con nosotros, que tenemos muchos planes para seguir nuestra relación con nuestros vecinos en México y que ustedes son una gran parte de la razón que tenemos una economía fundada en la relación de Tucson y Sonora y Tucson y México. Muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros. Thank you so much for allowing me that space, Felipe.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And again, thanks to you, all the council members, your staff, the City of Tucson staff, Manager's Office. Again, we're proud partners of the City of Tucson. We're going to be working together because we're Somos Uno, and we're going to come out of this economic crisis, this health crisis, together stronger. So we really appreciate your time.
Well, these are the times when we have to make sure that we are in unity, porque we are one, somos uno. Así que muchísimas gracias. Thank you all so much, and enjoy your conference.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor. So I want to welcome and thank the chairman of the Pima County Board of Supervisors, Ramon Valadez. Thank you, Mr. Valadez, for joining us and again in the Visit Tucson annual meeting.
Thank you so much, Felipe. It's a pleasure to be here, even though it's virtually and in video at this point.
So, I mean, we're talking about virtually and we're on camera, but we're working and we've been working for the last few weeks in ways that we can help our economy recover. And I know Pima County, your team, the whole team at Pima County have been instrumental in moving things forward. So what are we looking for in the future and what's happening at Pima County?
Obviously, we've got our Back to Business task force that has already completed its first set of meetings. What we're looking for is just different ways that we can start to really kind of get our economy going. Whether the board right now is looking to see what we might be able to do in terms of some level of small business assistance and trying to leverage some of the resources that we already have. Obviously, Felipe, as you know, tourism is a huge component of our economic development picture here in Southern Arizona and in Pima County. Mm-hmm. So that we've obviously through Visit Tucson and yourself and Brent have been talking to some of our partners with the resorts and the hotels to see what it is we can do with them, particularly as we approach the summer months with their swimming pools and sort of balance, again, the need to open up our economy with public safety.
And again, I want to thank the Pima County household. He's been investing in the recovery in the tourism industry. So we've been very excited to see what's been happening at the Keno Sports Complex, new fields. I mean, just beautiful. And we're looking to track more visitation. You and I had the opportunity to have a coffee and a good conversation with one of the members of the KT Wiz, a professional Korean baseball team training here in Tucson. So again, looking forward to more business, more opportunities, and again, the investment that Pima County has done in those fields so we can bring more visit and more tourism to our community.
Oh, absolutely. That was a dream that goes back to about 2006. And it was wonderful to be able to celebrate the dedication of it last year with you, many other friends, including our late colleague, Richard Elias, which there are many pictures of the two of us enjoying that time together. Obviously, we're not done. That was phase one. We are looking at phase two, including restaurants, retail operations, hotel, and potentially there's been some discussion about having an additional amphitheater. Again, that's going to be in partnership with a private entity. We'll look for concepts and then we'll sell that entity the property, obviously at fair market value, but it provides a wonderful opportunity for making that wonderful attraction even better.
Well, again, thank you for that investment. It helps bring visitation, economic development to our community. Pima County has been a great partner of us. Sharon Bronson, member of the Pima County Board of Supervisors, sits in our board, and it's a great way to have an ongoing dialogue and conversation with her and the rest of the team of Pima County to make sure that tourism, hospitality, we recover. We know we're going to get out of this eventually. And again, thank you for your leadership. Anything else we're missing? Anything you want to add on that you might want to convey to people that are joining us?
You know, certainly, absolutely. Tourism obviously represents a huge component to our overall economic development strategy here in Pima County and in Southern Arizona. So everything that you do is important, not only to our community, but to our board. On behalf of the board, I want to thank all the members of the board of directors and of the Visit Tucson. Certainly your work is appreciated, and we look forward to continuing our partnership.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Ramon Valadez, Chair of the Pima County Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Felipe. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, Felipe. And thank you to Mayor Romero and Chairman Valadez for joining us today and for your continued partnership with Visit Tucson. Now I have the privilege of introducing Mayor Joe Winfield from the town of Oro Valley. Mayor, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Brent. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Let's start out by taking a look at the town's outlook for the coming year, especially when it comes to tourism.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you know, our outlook of the future is very positive. We have a number of efforts that align well with Visit Tucson's 10-year tourism master plan that I'd like to share with you. Oro Valley has a lot to offer in the arena of well-being. An example of that is the El Conquistador Hilton Resort will officially be opening their new spa sometime this fall. Steam Pump Ranch, a national register for historic places, and really in some ways the heart of Oro Valley, is enjoyed by thousands of residents and visitors each year. The town plans to invest over $500,000 to restore one of the historic structures for enrichment programs and other uses. As you know, Brent, we're blessed with a diverse network of unpaved and paved trails that literally connects Oro Valley to limitless hiking, biking, and horseback riding opportunities. We're going to be investing about $400,000 to improve a section of the multi-use trail that runs parallel with the Oro Valley Marketplace, soon to be the Oro Valley Village Center. As you know, the town, in cooperation with various partners, sponsors numerous festivities and events throughout the year that include music, food, and activities, always with the iconic Catalina Mountains in the background. As I mentioned, the Oro Valley Marketplace will transition into the Oro Valley Village Center. This important redevelopment project will create a regional destination for living, working, and playing. And we're looking forward to that getting underway soon.
Excellent, thank you. Again, just taking a look at, and you've touched on this already to some extent, but looking at just maybe the competitive advantage that Oro Valley has when it comes to outdoors and wellness. Oro Valley is situated in just such a beautiful area that it, looking at the, as you've mentioned, paved, unpaved trails and other amenities out there, really feels like moving ahead that that outdoors and wellness could be a real competitive advantage for the town.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a clear competitive advantage for visitors seeking outdoor and wellness experiences begins really with location. And the town of Oro Valley couldn't be better placed in the region, flanked to the east are the Catalina Mountains, which I mentioned earlier. On the north side are the Tortolita Mountains. And then we have those wonderful open spaces that provide for opportunities for people to, for visitors, residents to recreate. And so among those open spaces, Big Wash, CDO Wash, and other planned and preserved open spaces, I mentioned earlier this network of natural surface trails, multi-use paths. We have generous bike lanes along our roadways in the town of Oro Valley. All of this provides for great opportunities for outdoor recreation and connections to various amenities in the town. Oro Valley is home to or a gateway to Honeybee Canyon, Steam Pump Ranch, the Arizona Trail, Catalina State Park, Tortolita Mountain Park, Coronado National Forest, some state trust lands, and Tohono Chul Park, a world-class botanical garden. And then, of course, strewn throughout the town are over 200 public art pieces that can be toured in a group or self-guided.
Excellent. And then we take a look at eventually COVID-19 cases beginning to drop off to some extent, we hope in the not too distant future. We see some of those different precautions lifted. What role do you see in terms of the Oro Valley Aquatic Center moving ahead in terms of being able to bring groups and activities into the town?
We reopened the Aquatic Center June 1st. Following CDC guidelines. So at least in the short term, that will limit some of the activities there. But we're excited about attracting regional and national events in partnership with Visit Tucson, and this will continue to be a priority for the town. These events, as you know, attract visitors to the community who stay in our hotels, dine in our restaurants, and all of this provides a significant economic impact to the town. You know, we believe that this pandemic will be behind us in the coming months, and the town is honored to host the Junior and Senior National Artistic Swimming Championship in April 2021. And we know that Visit Tucson was instrumental in bringing that event to the town of Oro Valley. This event is anticipated to attract about 300 athletes to the town. And then in addition will be their coaches and families. So we're looking forward to that.
Excellent. And is there anything else, Mr. Mayor, that you'd like to add just in terms of tourism and its importance to Oro Valley?
Well, tourism is definitely an important component of our economic development strategy. And there's a good reason for that. The town of Oro Valley has a lot to offer. As I mentioned earlier, it's placed well in terms of becoming a springboard to other regional sites, whether that's Sabino Canyon, the Desert Museum, Biosphere 2, and other sites downtown Tucson. We look forward to the coming months. We're hoping that the pandemic will be controlled to permit greater tourism activity, which we fully anticipate and are planning for in the coming months.
Excellent. And I just want to thank you as well, just for the time and the input that you supply us with as a member of Visit Tucson's Board of Directors. We appreciate your dedication to our organization.
Thanks, Brent. It's great to be a part of your board.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us for Visit Tucson's virtual annual meeting. As we wrap up this meeting and work to rebuild our region's tourism industry, we need to reflect on the recent tragic events that took the lives of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. We at Visit Tucson share in the anger over these needless deaths and thousands of racially motivated deaths of Black Americans that preceded them in our country. Part of Visit Tucson's vision statement is that we welcome the world, and that includes people of all races, ethnicities, and nationalities. So how do we as a company do better? We are in the midst of working out the details, but are partnering to create a local scholarship program to attract more Black students into tourism and hospitality educational initiatives. We will share with you the details in the coming weeks, including how your business or you individually can donate. We at Visit Tucson also need to immerse ourselves in conversations to better understand the issues and perspectives that shape Black and brown lives. Simply put, we stand up against racism and commit to learning and growing. Thank you for your support of Visit Tucson, and we are excited to work with you to bring back the millions of visitors and billions in visitor spending that propel our region forward.